Ohio State of Mind podcast, hosted by Josh Keeley and Chris Ryan.
All right, welcome to the Ohio State of Mind podcast. I am your host, Josh Keeley. Chris Runyon is not going to be joining us tonight because he's out serving our country. God bless Chris. But with us is Donovan, as always, the NFL draft expert. We had him on last week, having him back on again. And big round of applause for Bill Carroll. Very excited to have you on, Bill. Bill, I quoted you 3 podcasts in a row. 3 podcasts in a row. And I texted Donovan today. I said, dude, I quoted him 3 podcasts in a row. I have to invite him on. So, Bill, I have to ask you, how you doing? What was your overall thought on the draft? And, what are your thoughts?
So there's been a lot of derision sort of heaped on this draft at various places by various persons. There's going to be so many good football players that were found in the middle rounds of this draft that maybe the first round won't go down as one of the great first rounds in history, right? Probably won't.
Fair.
Right. I had a trivia question about a draft where 12 of the first 16 people drafted made Pro Bowl at least once. And of the 4 who didn't, 3 were quarterbacks, and the one who wasn't a quarterback was Nick Fairley, right? But other than Christian Ponder and Jake Locker and Blaine Gabbert, in that year, 2011, the first 12 of the first 16 picks in the first round made at least one Pro Bowl. Well, this is not that, but there's going to be really good players all throughout this draft, literally all the way till the 7th round.
Well, and that draft was weird too because Christian Ponder, I mean, if you remember when he left Florida State, the Florida State fans were excited he left. So that was
thrilled. They were thrilled, yes, because they knew whoever was going to play quarterback at that point would not be Christian Ponder.
Yeah, and the Jake Locker thing, that's not necessarily fair either because he got hurt so early and so often. I mean, because he wasn't bad when he was healthy. So it's like, was he going to be a Pro Bowler? Maybe not. But it's still kind of a weird thing. Nick Fairley too. I feel like I remember Nick Fairley getting hurt and not quite living.
We'll talk another time about what Nick Fairley had going on, but it wasn't just injury.
Well, I appreciate you joining. If you're curious, my favorite Bill Carroll quote that's come up many, many, many times this offseason was, if he couldn't do it in college, what makes you think he's going to do it in the NFL? It stuck with me. You think you said that quote. I can't remember the prospects you said it on, but it blew my mind when you said it, and it's stuck with me for about 10 years now. But, Donovan, how are you, man?
Fantastic, man. This was a cool draft. It was very entertaining for me. The Jag draft party on Thursday night, if you guys follow me on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Electric. Awesome. And I got to get out of traffic by the beaches because we moved up to 2. So, no, I had a fun time, man. I love the draft just because, man, like, I'm a high school football guy still, and I don't do it as much anymore, but talking to a lot of these kids from back in, 4, 5, 6 years ago, it's fun, man. It's really special. Like, it's like kind of sentimental to me just because, like, I've watched them grow up, some of them since they were like 14, 15 years old. So just see them get their name called or just, get the call up to go to the NFL as a UDFA or whatever the case may be is cool. So I had fun, and it was cool talking to all those guys and checking back in with them and texting some of them and just, doing that. It was cool. Really, really fun experience. And obviously we get to do this for fun, but it's our job mine at least. I know not everybody watching, but like, it's just for fun for some people, but like, it's a hell of a time. And I'm honored and happy. Thanks for everybody that had me on. You guys had me on last week too, and I gained a couple followers from that. So shout out to I saw the Ohio followers. That has to be from this show. So.
Well, speaking of, we got Will join us. Hey, Will, how you doing? Oh, he got me a gift. Ooh. Oh,
see, this show is just like cool gifts and followers and
yeah. Well, we're gonna break down. We're gonna go over the Ohio State guys that are drafted. There were a shit ton of them, and then we're gonna kind of go over whether or not we think it was a good pick, a bad pick, pros, cons, all that good stuff. We've been talking about us 3 specifically. Have been talking about the draft for a long time. It does kind of bum me out though that like when we watch the players get drafted now, it's like they're not at home. They're like Airbnbs, and there's like a studio set up. Like, I miss the old school, like the random camera while there's pizza on the dining room table and three cats. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of bums me out. But I guess that's the sign of the times. But so the very first Buckeye, let's just go ahead and kick it off. The very first Buckeye that went off the board was Emeka Egbuka, 19th overall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep.
Now, to recap, Bill, to fill you in, this was a pick that Donovan and I kind of disagreed on. Our scouting reports kind of disagreed. I gave Emeka Egbuka a second-round grade because, in my eyes, there was a huge difference between what he did, his physical attributes compared to all the Ohio State wide receivers that came before him. And the other example of a number 2 wide receiver from Ohio State getting drafted, which was Chris Olave, he blew it out. He blew it out of the water as far as the combine went. I just don't see. I like Emeka Egbuka. I don't think he's a bust. I don't think he's a bad player. I just thought I thought that if it wasn't for the helmet that he was wearing, that maybe he wouldn't get as much hype as he did. For example, Yeah.
If Emeka Egbuka is at Miami of Ohio or Ohio University, he probably is a second-round pick.
Yeah.
So, yes, I agree. It helps to be at Ohio State. But here's what I will say. The term I used when I described him, when we talked on our Team MBS draft coverage, said boring good. He's boring good. And, yes, there's no one quality. There's no one thing about him where you go, wow. But he's boring good. We just saw Robert Woods get to, yet another NFL team. And I think Egbuka is sort of a similar kind of football player.
Did you guys look before the pod?
We did it. That's what I said. That's crazy. No, Chris last week he had asked me for a comp, and that was
said Robert Woods.
Right. I mean, when you think about the Robert Woods, the Jamison Crowders, the Jericho Cotcheries, there's a bunch of guys who just go out and they catch 6 balls every week for 71 yards, but 4 of those are key first downs that continue to drive. They're boring good football players. And yes, if he went to, a MAC school, he's a second rounder. If he goes to an CS school, he's a third rounder. If he goes to Division II school, he's a fourth rounder, even if he's the exact same guy, right? But what helps him is that he did play against high-level competition. He has done it on big stages. He went for 255 in an Rose Bowl, right? He's done these things with everyone watching him.
Yeah.
So, that obviously helped him. I mean, that's it. Human beings are influenced by things, right? That's why we have terms like buzz and hype, is because human beings are influenceable.
Yeah. So, but overall, it sounds like you're saying what I'm saying, but you like the pick, I guess, is what I'm.
He's a good football player, and he's in a great situation.
Okay.
First of all, they're going to throw the ball a lot in Tampa Bay. And Baker Reagan Mayfield, I'm not saying he's going to be the leader in passing yardage, but he's going to be top 5. Book it. He's going to be a top 5 quarterback in passing yardage next year. Book it. So there'll be enough. There'll be enough for everybody. Like, they'll have to trim off of everybody's plate a little bit, but there'll be enough for everybody. They're going to throw the ball a lot. And Egbuka is going to be that guy that just is where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. And Baker Reagan Mayfield will come to trust him very quickly.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good scouting report, Donovan. I feel like you were pretty stoked about that pick as well. You texted me that night and said you thought it was a good fit as well.
I was so happy because he went to the perfect situation with Mike and Chris Godwin.
Great
you learn from a Hall of Fame receiver, and then a team that throws the ball all over the field, and that warm Tampa Bay stadium that they still have for now. But I think that was a great move by them. And then Godwin gets hurt a lot. Evans has been pretty consistent on the field, but Godwin's contract's up next year, so he can move into the 2 spot. And Mike Evans, as much as I love him, can't play forever, so eventually gonna have to get another receiver. But I love what they have, and they just spread it out so much in that offense. I know it's a new offense a little bit, but it's similar offense. They'll still have Liam Cohen. Obviously, went down to Jacksonville, but it'll be kind of a similar offense, and they'll throw the rock around. And I like it. I like that he went to Tampa Bay, and he'll be immediately the third receiver on their team, and perfect situation for him because he doesn't have to be the guy, which you said he has never been. Well, probably won't have to be for a long time in Tampa Bay because we still got Chris and Mike.
He may never have to be the guy.
Great offensive line, great quarterback, just a stable playoff caliber team. You know, I mean, that's why they pick in the late teens and 20s pretty much every year.
So my top two Ohio State prospects on my board are Josh Simmons at 28 and Mbuka at 29.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. Well, and we'll get to that. Will told me his gift is a Browns deal. For Donovan, you're probably aware of this, but Bill, I spent a good portion of the year talking shit about Dylan Gabriel. So when he got drafted by the Browns, 3 people who listened to the show immediately messaged me. So I had that.
Believe me, I wasn't happy about that pick either. Even though I love Dylan as a whatever. We'll talk about that.
I honestly thought it was a good pick at that point, but there were people telling me he was going to be a first rounder, and then we got Aaron joining us. Will loves the Browns. Yeah, he told us that. Oh, here you go. Jerry Rice wasn't very flashy or stupid athletic. He was. See, that's kind of that's not really true, right? We've talked about this before too. First of all, Jerry Rice dominated. Second of all, the whole Jerry Rice running like a 4.6. That's a rumor. That's not. I mean, right, Bill? I got.
Yeah. So it's because I'm one of the advantages of being super ancient and old is that you can talk to people who actually were there when Jerry Rice's time. So once again, this is not in the official timing era. There were no official times for anybody. So you're going to hear a lot of different things. But nobody had him in the 4.7s, just in case you're wondering. Nobody. People had him in the low 4.6s and high 4.5s. So 4.61, 4.62, 4.58, 4.59. It was a range, 4.57. But he hadn't trained at all. That's the thing people forget. People would just show up at the combine and run. They wouldn't eat differently. They wouldn't do anything. People forget to factor that in.
And that's
people's combine prep was booking a flight.
Yeah, and that was coming from a place like Mississippi Valley State where back then they were probably riding high school buses to football games. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Well, yeah. So Mississippi Valley State is sort of the poor sister, even now, of the SWAC, right? It's one of the smaller, both physically and in terms. They're even now. I mean, Jerry Rice has helped actually, so they have much better facilities than they used to have because Jerry Lee Rice has, put some money into the program. But I can tell you that, the first time he was ever in a recovery tub was probably a few years into his NFL career.
Yeah,
a lot of things were new to him, but like I said, he didn't have special shoes. He didn't do any kind of prep. He showed up and ran.
Yeah.
Other teams that worked him out privately said they had him in the 5.44s, right? The Cowboys did a private workout with him and had him in 4.49. So there's a lot of different whatever. But once again, it's all hand times from a million different people. So there's no official time. So it's all apocryphal from that era anyway. So when you hear about 4.12 from Bo Jackson, I've never talked to anybody who had a 4.1 anything on anybody. I don't think such a thing is quite possible yet because, we're still a little ways away from that. But here's the thing about Jerry Rice. When people say boring, amazing, he was in an offense where every team, all they cared about was stopping Jerry Rice, right? When you're playing Mississippi Valley State and Archie the Gunslinger Cooley's offense, you know that you win or lose based on how you handle Jerry Rice. They don't really have a running game. They threw the ball. They were way ahead of their time. And we should do a show at some point on like the most interesting offenses in the history of college football. Because that offense was at least 15 years ahead of its time.
Well, they had a string of pretty solid receivers that kind of people forget about, like Ricky Feature, for instance. I mean, that guy was also very, very extremely productive collegiate receiver at a long NFL career, and that's pretty rare for a school like that, especially back then. But we're getting off topic though. So
right, we're getting off topic. But the point is that Jerry Rice was a dominant force from the moment he got there until the moment he left, and halfway through his freshman year, every team knew we got to stop Jerry Rice. So that's the big difference, right, is the utter dominance. Jerry Rice set records, they'll never break his Mississippi Valley State records. Like that school, they can retire his school records because no one will touch him. And he still holds a bunch of SWAC records and even some, what's now FCS when those is 1AA records that may never be broken. But yes, getting back to the draft, like I said, Emeka Egbuka doesn't have any one special quality, but you don't have to have any one special quality to be a really good football player.
I agree with that. My issue is always that he was always second fiddle, right? That pressure,
Right.
that attention that he never had to deal with. Every other receiver in the Ohio State offense did. Aaron comes in again. He's the GOAT, but he wasn't Megatron. Those guys were physical freaks. He also, Will mentions Egbuka or spot runs with Jackson Smith and Jigba. Even Jackson Smith and Jigba had moments where he was the focal point of that offense. I'm not bashing Egbuka. Obviously, I'm rooting for him. I've met him numerous times. A hell of a human being. Love him to death. It's just I try to be as objective as possible, and this kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago when Ohio State fans were clamoring for Trey Sermon and acting like he was going to be the next best thing, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, that's not.
You can't compare Trey Sermon to Mecca, the guy that has the most catches in your school history, though, man. Like I like Trey Sermon,
but Trey
Mecca,
Sermon,
you don't look into the most
games that were he was.
Yeah, but Mecca's just been doing that at Ohio State for. I mean, what was it? 4 straight years, like.
Yeah. So he's obviously better than a guy like Evan Spencer or Chris Fields, who was there for 4 years.
Yeah, well, that's disrespectful. Man.
And he's in the same tier as Spencer Bobby. I'm not shitting on him. I just, like I said, 19 is that's a number one receiver, right? That's not that many spots behind Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson was a dog. But moving on, the next Buckeye off the board was Donovan Jackson at 24 to the Minnesota Vikings. Donovan, why don't you kick us off with this one? Your thoughts?
I was going to say Donovan James for a second. Donovan Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Oops. I'm sorry. Both of you guys have the same name. There you go.
No, close. But, no, man, I like that pick a lot. I think I had Donovan Jackson, remember I said last week, late first, early second round, and I snuck him to the first of my last mock draft I did on that Wednesday. So for him to go right there to and then Tyler Booker was already off the board. So, I mean, that just made so much sense. He had went out to 12 at Dallas. 12 picks before, so I think that made another perfect fit. These Ohio State guys went into a lot of good situations, and his is perfect too. I love him, obviously being able to play tackle and guard in that Vikings offense, and the offensive line needs to be really good. And I think it's already pretty good. One of the kind of better top end offensive lines, and it's definitely gotten better. Will get better with Donovan Jackson up front. So, I don't think it was too early. I think it was a perfect spot for him. I had him in the 20 to 32 range. So he went 24, and he went to a damn good spot in a team that's a playoff team, and bringing Usher in a new quarterback. So it'll be fun to see him start. It should start right away for the Vikings.
I don't necessarily mind the pick. This is another one where I was kind of scratching my head a little bit. I love Donovan Jackson when he came back. First of all, he was the MVP of the season, really, because when Josh Simmons went down and they moved him to left tackle, he had one bad game, and it was not even really that bad. It was his first game against Abdul Carter, who's a freak. But he handled everything up. He showed his versatility. He was by far the MVP. He did not have to come back. I know that for a fact. I know the numbers that were being floated around for him to leave, and his draft, his projections, and what agents were saying, and that was very alluring to him. And he still decided to come back. So I think that's noteworthy. But he did have a dip in production last year, and I think that was due to when he gets beat. A lot of times it's due to him being slow off the ball. And I feel like in the NFL and college, he kind of made up for that, and that didn't really happen in the playoffs. He kind of hit a second gear. If he can maintain that, great. I think he's a Pro Bowler immediately. I don't know, because he had part of his career was kind of up and down with that part of it. And that was really the only issue I see with his game, is that he would just be lazy sometimes. But Bill, what are your thoughts on Donovan Jackson?
My number 36 prospect, and some of it depends on where you want him to play. Right, he's played guard. He can obviously play either tackle. He could be your swing if he's not an immediate starter. But here's what I will say. I think his the things he does well, he does very well, and the things where he struggles, and as you said, even his worst game wasn't that bad. But things where he struggles are things where the pressure, right, the additional pressure, will make those things look slightly more alarming, right? Yeah. Because there's one Abdul Carter in college football. There's 9 of them in the NFL. So he will occasionally be made to look bad. But that's why guys like Trent John Watt, right, are who they are because they make people look, even really good people, look bad. So he's going to get whipped sometimes badly. But
Yeah.
I think 80% of the time he's going to look fantastic. 10% of the time he's going to look good, and then 10% of the time he's going to look bad, which is true of most.
He plays guard for the Vikings because they got Christian Darrisaw and Ryan O'Neal already. And that line, they added Will Fries and Ryan Kelly, from the Colts. And I think they got him projected at left guard right now starting. I think Blake Brandel, I think, is behind him. That's who would be competing. I think he's better than Blake Brandel right now. I think he starts at guard because they got two bookends really at left and right tackle. I love Christian Darrisaw, and then O'Neal's really solid on the right side.
I think it's a good landing spot for him. But Bill, I agree with what you're saying, Bill. Where it's like he has really long arms too for his body type, really long arms, and I feel like that kind of was a saving grace. Like if he had a snap where he was clearly the last guy off the ball, his long arms allowed him to, overcome that. And I don't think that's going to happen in the NFL if he's playing a guy like Chris Jones, which I think is kind of what you're saying, Bill. Like, it's not just the edge rushers. There's guys on the interior that are also very explosive that are going to cause issues for him.
He's a better run blocker too, right, Josh?
Right.
And
reaction time matters even more on the interior because everything happens faster.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I also think that that's something that can be improved upon. Because you didn't see that in the playoffs. I mean, he was going up against some tight rushers. And Tennessee has a great defensive line. Texas has a great defensive line. I never saw him last off the ball. It really felt like he tightened it up. He knew it was at stake, and he was a different guy. But obviously, you can't just scout a guy just based off of his last 4 games, right? But I do think that that's something he can improve on. And that's probably was a first-round pick, which brings us to the next first-round pick, Tyleik Williams, 28th overall, the Detroit Lions. Now, I think this was the perfect fit. I'm thinking about running out and getting his jersey. I love Tyleik Williams. I actually saw him a couple weekends ago. I think he's got a great attitude. I think he's a great athlete. I think he had a couple, again, kind of like Donovan Jackson. When he gets beat, it's due to his laziness or it's due to maybe he's exhausted, whatever the situation is. But it's nothing physical. I think he's big. I think he's fast. I think he's strong. And I think it was a great landing spot. So I'm super stoked for Tyleik Williams. I think he's a Pro Bowler. Bill, what are your thoughts?
I don't like him quite as much as you like him. For me, he has a second-round grade, but I do think he will find a role and be productive even early on in his career. To me, he feels like a move-around guy, right? A guy that plays some 4-eye, like you move him around, find matchups, and just let him go hunt. I think if used correctly, like I said, right out of the box, he'll produce. I just don't think he's going to be a star, but I think he's going to be a good football player. Like he's going to produce immediately and be productive for 8 to 10 years.
Interesting. And then Will's got, let's just hope Jackson's Tyleik will come back. Decleat JJ one time.
I knew somebody was going to mention JJ because I said Viking, yeah.
Aaron agrees with you. Bill Williams was a reach. Donovan, what do you think about Tyleik?
Yeah, it's funny. Me and Bill, man, we didn't talk before the show at all, I swear. I was going to call him, but I didn't have time. But I agree with him 100%. I'll call you after the show, Bill. I'll talk to you. I got to ask you a couple questions, but if you have time, I know it's late.
Yeah, I'll make some time.
All right. No, but Tyleik, I had a second-round grade on him, and I agree with everything Bill just said. Piggybacking off of what he said, I think he fits. Again, a lot of this is just fit. Like, that's the best thing the OGs like Bill and Jeff Riston, like, because he's, obviously running that site there for the Wire, but that they've told me is like, you can like a guy all you want up and down, but fit really is what's going to matter at the end of the day. And this is like another guy that, I had him 48, I think, overall. So I was not as high on him. I think he's going to play
frighteningly close to where I had him.
48. I think I had him. Yeah, it's a second round grade, and I had him as a guy that Alliance was one of my fit teams though for him. So great fit for him. Obviously, going to a team where they already have a pretty solid defense up front. Obviously, with Aiden coming back. You get DJ Reader in there, to help out, and Marcus Davenport and those guys. So they'll be good up front, and he'll fit in right away. I think he is one of the most NFL-ready guys. Like, I would put him in the top 25, top 30 for just NFL-ready. I think he comes in right away and just has a solid lunch pail career, 8 to 10 years, like Bill said. And it might not be all with the Lions, the Pro Bowler. He might bounce around a little bit, but he'll be a really good, dependable starter for the next 8 to 12 years to come for sure. He might make a Pro Bowl or 2, but more likely just a solid player. Like,
I was down on Ibuka and Donovan, so I'm not going to I'm not going to claim bias and change my thought. I'm going to stick with my Ty League bias. I'm all for it.
Oh, that's been your guy though, Josh. I get it. Like,
Right. That is your guy.
That's been your guy for like years. I remember.
I know. It's sad.
You told me about him before. I mean, I knew about him, but you told me he's going to be the guy. So no, dude, I get it. I get it.
I think. But the next Buckeye off the board with the 32nd pick overall to the Kansas City Chiefs was Josh Simmons. Now, I thought this was a great pick as well. I saw him come off the board. I was super stoked. I get a little nervous because if you see all those fantasy doctors out there, they're talking about he'll never be the same, and that kind of scares me. But I think Josh Simmons is phenomenal. I gave him a first-round grade. I think he's got the potential to be a multi-year Pro Bowl kind of guy. He's super athletic. All of his issues that he had at San Diego State seem to kind of wash away the last couple, slowly but surely at Ohio State. I don't really have any issues with this guy as long as he's healthy, as long as he can be healthy. I think this is a home run pick. Donovan, what are your thoughts?
Home run pick. I had him last week as the number 1 prospect for Ohio State prospects, and my number 2 offensive tackle behind Kelvin Banks, and they were like 1A, 1B to me. Yeah. You can't go wrong either way. It's just that I've liked Kelvin really the whole process, but Josh has just as much talent, if not more talent. It's just the injury is a little bit concerning, obviously, like how well he can come bounce back from that. But another just good situation. He fell a little bit, in my opinion, but he went to a team that is the most consistent team in the NFL for the past decade. So, and a team that already, they need help up front. Obviously, we watched the Super Bowl, but their line's not. I don't think they have one of the worst lines. They just ran into.
The Patriots played football last year, so no, they did not have one of the worst.
The Patriots had the best drafts in my opinion. So they've definitely helped themselves. But no, you got Trey Smith and Juwan Taylor on the right side. It's solid. Obviously, Creed Humphrey's all pro, one of the best, probably top 15, 20 players in the league. I think he's underrated somehow. No one talks about him. But Jalen Moore, right? That's going to be the battle. Josh Simmons, Jalen Moore. So who'll start? But I mean, either way, that's a good spot for Josh Simmons, and kind of like an upside pick. When you're a team like that, you can have a luxury of picking a guy that's coming off that injury because you don't necessarily have to start and be healthy right away. You can kind of ease him into the team, whether he comes back after training camp in the preseason or whatever. So we'll see. The Chiefs play the Jags in the preseason down here, so I'll have to watch him play and see if he's healthy. But I love the pick. That's honestly probably the best. I think out of all Ohio State guys, we have to go through them all, I guess. But that's one. No, I got one more that's better. That's coming up. I know. Josh knows what it is already.
We'll get to it.
But this one's my second favorite.
Bill, what do you think about the Josh Simmons pick?
Well, I mean, as I mentioned previously, he was my second highest rated Ohio State prospect. So I am a fan, and obviously the injury is what pushed him down a little, but. He would have. In fact, no, I take it back. He was my number 1 rated Ohio State prospect, just ahead of Ibuka. So the only reason he didn't go even sooner is, the injury history. I think he's going to be a really good football player, and that's a guy I do think makes to a couple of Pro Bowls before it's all said and done.
I do. Yeah, I agree. By the way, I got to shout out Helix High School, man. San Diego, that's where I'm from. So, he went to the same high school as Reggie Bush and Alex Smith.
Helix again. And the late great Bill Walton also.
And the late great Bill Walton. Yeah, that Helix is that's a little Mesa, California. That's where I got some family. So shout out to Helix High School. Awesome. I remember hearing about anytime I hear about a kid from Helix, Bill, I'm like all ears because watching Reggie Bush and Alex Smith back in the day was just like, oh my God, that was as a kid that was like still historic to me. And then he's Bill Walton. Always, I didn't get a chance to watch him in high school, but he's an OG though. Rest in peace, Bill Walton.
Yeah. Aaron agrees with you guys. He said he heard from multiple draft guys in his community that Simmons had the best tape of all tackles. Yeah, I think that that was. I think that a lot of people thought that. It was just that injury that held him back. Next pick, Quinshon Judkins went to the Cleveland Browns in the 2nd round. I thought this was appropriate. I thought this was a good pick. I thought this was a fine pick. Obviously, as the Browns, we were on the show last week. If it were up to me, I have Travion Henderson as a higher graded player than Quinshon. I don't think this is a reach by any means. I like Quinshon. He runs tough. He's a tough runner. So I think it's a good pick. This is probably appropriate. I'm not going to sit here and act like he's going to be a 10-year Pro Bowl guy or Nick Chubb like some are saying, but I think that he can be. I think that that's probably his ceiling. and I think that his floor is really high as well. So that's kind of where I sit with Quinshon. Bill, what do you think?
I'm a huge Quinshon Judkins guy. I have him slightly ahead, actually, of Henderson.
Oh, wow.
Because once again, remember, I first fell in love with him at Ole Miss. So I got a chance to see him do sort of everything, right? I mean, he had to share the load at Ohio State, but when he was at Ole Miss, he's catching balls out of the backfield. He's picking up blitzes. He's running routes deep down the field at times. I mean, he's doing a little bit of everything. So I think that while he got more exposure, I guess, Ole Miss isn't exactly some rinky-dink program, but maybe more people saw him at Ohio State than at Ole Miss. But go back and watch him at Ole Miss, and you see he's a do everything back. And I just think that being in the same room with TreVeyon Henderson, where people think of TreVeyon Henderson as the guy who's more versatile, I think it's only because they were on the same team that you didn't see the fact that Quinshon can do a lot of the same things. And he's able to pick up more yards after contact. So when everything else is so close together, but one guy is distinctly better at fighting through contact, that guy is going to push himself ahead in my book.
That's fair. Donovan, what do you think?
This is my number one. I texted you immediately when this pick happened. Yeah. Remember?
Yeah.
And I love TreVeyon Henderson. Don't get me wrong. And he went to a really. We'll talk about in a second. But I agree with Bill again. I'm sorry, fans, if you wanted some diverse, different stuff going on. But I'm agreeing with Bill every time because he's just right. I had Quinshon Judkins slightly ahead of TreVeyon Henderson. And I love TreVeyon Henderson. He was another Ohio State legend, right? He was been there for 4 years, won 2 natties, right? Or no, went to 2 college football playoffs, 3 maybe, with just a lot of wins, just like a Mecca Buka, just a winner, and a fan favorite. But yeah, Quinshon's my guy, man. He was my RB3 behind the 2 guys, obviously Genty and Hampton, that went in the first round, and Quinshon was right there. Ole Miss. I remember hearing about him a little bit in high school. He played at rival school of Tez Johnson and Bo Nix, so I got to see him play, and I loved him. And the way Lane Kiffin used him at Ole Miss, I loved too. Didn't get as many touches, but obviously with TreVeyon Henderson there's a reason for that. But no, I like the way he runs after the play. And then Bill talked about his catching. He doesn't get a lot of love for the way he can catch the ball and run.
He can catch the ball. He can catch the ball.
Yeah, especially when Jackson Dart was coming up. Early on, he threw a lot. Like Trey Harris,
and the passes were not always exactly spot on. He can catch the ball outside the frame of his body better than most of the running backs in this draft class. You just didn't get to see him do that at Ohio State. Yeah, he did a lot at Ole Miss.
I like him. I even compared him last week, and I know this is his ceiling. I'm not saying this is what he's going to be, but Joe Mixon was a comparison for him. Again, I don't think coming out the gate he's Joe Mixon, because Joe Mixon's still one of the best running backs in me on the league, but he has a Joe Mixon type vibe, type feel to me. I feel like that's his max potential. And with the Browns, with you guys, man, I think your running back room, I read it off to Bill last week. I was like, this running back room sucks. But now you got him and Dylan Sampson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know Jerome's okay, but you needed some juice, man. So that's one thing I'll give Cleveland credit for. Their draft was great, but for the most part, drafting Quinshon Judkins right there was awesome. So I love that pick, and I think he went to the purpose. He's a fan. Fantasy nerds I've seen fantasy nerds tweet about this all day. He's gonna be, the guy if you're picking for the drafts and stuff. Him and obviously Genty and Hampton. So
yeah, I think it's a good fit for him. I think it's a good fit for him. For sure. The next pick was TreVeyon Henderson. He went 2 picks later than New England Patriots in the second round. Obviously, I just said that's my dude. Maybe I am biased. This is a guy that I've been watching since he was a freshman. He's gone through a lot of adversity with a lot of injuries. And a lot of people were calling him a bust, right? This is a former 5-star recruit that was kind of getting sidelined quite a bit. So Ohio State fans were kind of turning on him a bit, and rightfully so. I understand it, because he was just bumped and bruised, and a lot of those injuries too, they were kind of keeping hidden. But he's explosive. I think he's probably the most explosive running back in the class. I think he's a great pass catcher. I think he's a great blocker. I love Quinshon Judkins. I'm not bashing Quinshon Judkins, but when they wanted something to happen in the offense, they relied upon TreVeyon. I just think that TreVeyon is special. I gave him a first-round grade. I think that he can do something special in the NFL. I think multi-Pro Bowl year kind of guy. But again, maybe I'm biased, but I think that the Patriots, they got themselves a playmaker. But Donovan, what do you think about Travion?
I texted one of my buddies that used to be a scout, man, when this happened, and because he nailed it. He said the Patriots they loved him. Mike Vrabel loves him so much, and he just considered him as like one of his guys, even though Vrabel's a defense guy. That's how much of a tough ass dude Travion Henderson is. You got the head coach saying like, "This is my guy. Like I'm picking this guy as running back."
Well, he's a good person too. You know,
But that too, and then just he's a leader, man. He comes in the locker room and is a ultimate leader as a I almost said freshman, as a rookie. He's already one of the veteran leader guys, and he's still got a lot of juice left. He's put a lot of carries.
And he donates a ton of money to a lot of.
He's probably got a foundation in Foxborough and Boston already. Like
dude.
Something going on. He just got there today, but no, that's a good situation for him, man. To have Stevenson. And then obviously Antonio Gibson, you know, you got him from the Commanders. So they got a little good running back room there. But the Patriots, I know it's not a Patriot podcast, but they have the best draft to me. And that it's one of the guys I love. I think he comes in right away. And that guy can run for 800 to 1,000 yards right now. In. And he can catch, for 200-300 too, because he can catch a little backfield. I'd have to go back. I don't want to say this is crazy, but I mean, best pass blocking running back I've seen in a long time, man. That's all I can say. I don't know about 5, 10, 12 years, but like,
nose in there for sure.
I don't know if I've seen a pass blocking running back that good in a while. It's up there. Like, he can block his ass off, dude. So I love that about him. That's my favorite thing about him. And I saw Phil Yates talking about it too, which I mean, I love and respect the heck out of Phil Yates, but he was like, man, that tape of him blocking, he's just intense, man. And he, like Josh said, I'll give you that. Judkins, I still think is a better NFL back, but if Ohio State needed to play, you go to that guy, and he's clutch. He made, what's that screen pass? Everybody always thought, yeah, that's him. Like,
yeah.
Bill, got to put on one play, like that's him. But him, dude, his blocking versus Indiana. Oh
yeah. Bill, what do you think?
James Carpenter's like 300 pounds. He just
he's got some highlight reel blocks for sure. He puts his nose in it. I don't know if that's going to work quite as well in the NFL because some of those highlights were against guys my size. But either way, he puts his nose up there. But Bill, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, so my number 52 overall prospect. So I didn't have a first round grade on him, but 51 players being ahead of you still means I like you, right? I mean, I didn't have him, around 100 or 200 or something. So things I noticed, as was just mentioned, he is dependable, right? He's a guy who wants responsibility. He's like the guy that wants to take the last shot in a basketball game. He has that mentality. Super smart, right? I mean, really high football IQ, can handle whatever offense you throw at him, and he doesn't have any hole, right, in his game, right? Everything in his game is good, between good and exceptional.
Yeah.
Like I said, my only minor complaint, well, as you mentioned, he's been nicked, and people I think of when I think of him, he's better than, but he's similar to the Joe McKnights. He's similar to, but better than. Like there's a lot of guys he's similar to, but better than. And I think he has a chance to be, especially in a, sort of that committee backfield, this will help him to have a longer career.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel to me like a guy can be a true bell cow back. And that's one thing I think Judkins actually could do. If you wanted to just hand the ball to Judkins 25 times a game and have him just bust it up into the line, I think that would be something he could actually do for 7 years. I don't know if that's something that you could ask of Travion.
That's good. He went to a team like that, I guess, too, Bill, like you were saying, that a team that already has Ramondre Stevens. And I still like Antonio Gibbs. I know most people have given up on him, but I still think he has a little bit of sauce left, especially if he's like the third running back or like the backup. I mean, I like where, they'll have Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson together as like a dual. I saw Phil Yates compared him to Aaron Jones, though, so that's pretty damn high praise. I don't know if he's
I mean, That's to me. That's a ceiling. That's a ceiling, right? I was giving floor when I'm giving guys like Joe McKnight.
Oh yeah, no, Joe McKnight is actually that's perfect. I said Joe McKnight with his head on straight. And rest in peace, Joe McKnight. I don't want to say he never. I feel like off the field he had some.
Yeah, that was which is not a problem for Travion, obviously.
No,
he's rock solid as a human being.
Yes, yeah. Will says Dobbins may have been better. That may.
I love J.K. Dobbins when he came out. I still do. He ran for almost 1,000 yards last year.
He was awesome.
Yep.
Not 80.
And then if Dobbins could stay healthy, we talk about him very differently.
Oh yeah. I know.
But that's a big.
That's a shame. Next pick off the board was JT Tuimoloau at 45 overall in the second round. Again, this is another pick that I absolutely love. I gave JTT a first-round grade. I thought that the defensive scheme that kind of held him back at Ohio State. I know that he's not the most explosive, bendy edge rusher, but there's been a lot of defensive ends with some success there. Loftus, Gregory Rousseau, that have also gone in the first round. So I think that you're getting a guy that, I think there's some potential left. I think that, he checks a lot of physical boxes. Bill, what are your thoughts on JTT?
Well, I think you named the wrong Buffalo pass rusher. The guy I see when I look at him is the skinny version of Epinesa, right? Because remember, Epinesa put on all that weight.
Yeah.
I don't know who told him to do that, and he was right, and he was so sluggish, and he was on his way to Bustville, and then he got it together, lost a bunch of weight, and now he's an effective football player. And yes, he's not super explosive. He's not super bendy. He's not going to throw a ghost move at you. He's not going to develop a really great spin move. He's never going to be exciting. Once again, another boring good player. But
yeah, exactly.
In the right situation, 7.5, 6, maybe even gets hot and gets 8 sacks, but he's going to be the other guy, right? So if you have your guy, you need the other guy, right?
They drafted what's in the first round last year, right? Another Polynesian with
UCLA.
Yeah.
He was the complete opposite of JTT, so that works out, right?
Yep. Agreed. Donovan, what are your thoughts on JTT?
Where he went 40? What pick was he?
45th to the Colts.
Yeah. Okay, I had him 52. So
Pretty close.
I know you just said you had Travion Henderson 52. So I had Travion a little bit higher than Bill, but not as high as Josh. But I was pretty much the same on JT. You had JT as a first round grade. I had him in second. So, but he went to a good spot. I think that's a perfect comparison to AJ because I think they're really similar. Really similar. I think JTT. I think he's going to have a little bit of a better career, in my opinion. But they're really similar prospects. I think he's a little bit better overall as a prospect. But he's a solid guy. He's like a can't-miss guy, like to me, one of the safer prospects in the class. So, and obviously another big-time recruit, I know. And I feel like fans kind of turned on him a little bit too. You're talking about Travion. I feel like a lot of, especially, well, maybe you have the Ohio State beat more than me, but nationally, a lot of people are like, oh, like, what? This, I mean, he was a number 5 overall recruit in that class. So people were kind of like, dude, what is he? But he ended up having a damn good career.
I think Ohio State fans kind of always knew like the defense because the defense was just.
It wasn't set up for him.
They won a national championship. Jim Knowles, we're glad we had him, but his defense just did not allow these guys to just do what they wanted to do. I think you could a lot of fans kind of recognize that.
I think JTT actually set the tone in that defense. I think it benefited him more than a lot of other people in that defense. But yeah, no, I like this pick into the Colts. I don't love the Colts draft, but this is one of their best picks.
I agree. And the next pick off the board is Cody Simon to the Arizona Cardinals in the 4th round. This is one that I was kind of like, I like Cody. I think Cody's going to be a very solid NFL player. But this is another guy that was pretty highly recruited. He took a really long time to get going. This is a guy that couldn't beat out Steel Chambers, who wasn't very good and was a guy who
like Steel Chambers, man.
He was a guy who wasn't very good, and it was a guy who made the transition from running back. He's having a great career. He's having a great season in the UFL, but he was not great. He's not going to go down the pantheon of Ohio State linebackers. But Cody Simon had a really good playoff. And I think that kind of elevated his draft. Like he does, I think he's a jack of all trades, master of none type. He's going to be a rotational guy that's probably always going to be on the roster for 10 years. I don't think he's a star. but that's not a bad thing. Donovan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Cody Simons. I don't think you're drafting him to be a star, though. I mean, like I think what the Cardinals got him, where they got him is fine. I think I'm a little bit higher on Cody Simon than you. Now that's one I don't. Bill hasn't said yet, but I don't know if he agrees with me. But I had him in the third round. I love Cody Simon, just consistent. I think he fits in today's NFL and what they're trying to do. I think he's really good at covering. I think he is tackles like a person back in the day would tackle, like not the little pussyfoot and tackle like people do today. He actually would wrap up. I think he has gotten better at prospect. He's another guy in your defense that was so highly recruited, not as high as like JTT and like some of the other guys, but still a high recruit and just kind of had a tough start early on. But man, credit to all these Ohio State guys that we've named for the most part because they stuck around the program, which just doesn't happen anymore. So that's why I love that team so much, and I ride for the Ohio State team because the core of that team stuck around. They didn't transfer. They just stayed and got better in that defense. And Cody Simon was one of the biggest reasons why you guys won the national championship. He played so good and was so consistent all year. I mean, I watched his stuff from 2021, 22. He was still good. He was solid. He did struggle in times, against freaky athletic guys. It's going to be tough for him. And that's why he won't be a star, like you said. He's just not that dude, to be a star. But he's a solid player for the Cardinals. The Cardinals got their stars. They got Walter Nolan and Will Johnson. So he's like the second tier guy. I worry about him, in open space with super athletic tight ends and stuff. But other than that, I think he's a damn good player. Not a Pro Bowler, but a solid 10, 11-year career type player. And I had him, like I said, third round. I think 88 is where I had him.
Pretty close. Bill, what are your thoughts on Cody Simon?
Yeah, not as high on Cody Simon. I was a little surprised. I mean, not that he's going to be a bad player. I just don't know if he's ever going to I don't even know if he's going to be a player who's on the field all the time, right? I mean, he feels to me, once again, like sort of a situational player. I mean, a good one possibly, but I just worry about we talked about, is there, once again, do you have a special thing, a thing that makes you stand out, a thing that makes you somebody that a team says, wow, we got to take advantage of his – he is a violent tackler. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, this is an era where violent tackling is being somewhat discouraged, but that is one of the things he does well. He can move around in space and cover. He can do a lot of things at a certain level, but nothing that makes you go, wow.
He's really good in red zone, too.
Really good right. Well, that's situational. That's what situational is, right? When you're
good at his best. Yeah, he's a monster when it's he's like Brian Urlacher. I mean, obviously, not Brian Urlacher, but like when it's like red zone area, I love him in that. But yeah, you're right, Bill. He's going to struggle with some of that.
It sounds like we're kind of on the same page, Bill, where it was just kind of an underwhelming pick for what was left on the board. And, I think it's okay. I think that we're saying the same thing. It's like I don't know what their vision is, I guess, because I don't see him being an every down linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, Simon was my 148 prospect.
Ooh, so me and Bill disagree finally on a pick.
Finally, disagree.
But Bill, you know me for a while. You know I love Cody Simon. I've always liked him.
Yes,
but this made me fall in love with him because I was higher on him than most people coming into the year. So with that national, I mean, he was the MVP of all your bowl games. Yeah, all three of them. He was defensive MVP. He was defensive all three games.
I think Jack Sawyer was the Texas game.
Jack Sawyer was Texas game.
Yeah,
you're right.
Either way, I know what you're saying. Aaron's with me. I gave Simon a 6th round grade, so we're right there in the same ballpark. Aaron says Steel Chambers was awful. Thanks for backing me up, Aaron. Next pick was Lathan Ransom in the 4th round. I thought this was a great pick. I love Lathan. He's not the best in coverage, but he's like that old school downhill safety, knocks some heads. Bill, what are your thoughts on Lathan?
My 161st overall prospect. Yes. Ooh. No, is that correct? No, sorry. Scratch that. 131st. That's
okay. That's closer.
Yeah. Eyes getting older. 131st overall prospect, and he's another guy who the trends of football are working against his strengths and towards his weaknesses. But if you want to play split field safety, particularly, he's a good fit. I don't think he's great if you want to just sit him deep middle and say, clean up everything. I don't think that's the best usage for him. But he's, once again, smart. I mean, here's what I will say about all of the Ohio State defenders. They all have really high football IQ. There's not a guy who's average or below average in terms of knowing football amongst any of the defensive players that Ohio State put out this year. They're all smart football players. In fact, probably true of all the offensive guys here. This is a smart football team. These guys are all football smart.
I would hope so. They've all been there for 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. That's why, because they're
right.
And they stayed in the
Right. I'm sure that helps. That helps, right? That helps. The guys have been there for a while.
Don, what are your thoughts on Lathan?
Quentin Michael was my comp for him. Quentin Michael.
Oh, okay.
Right. Ransom was about right for me. I had him 120. What pick was he?
He was at 122, so you were right on the money, dude. You were right on the money.
Yeah, I mean, because he's a guy that, he's an old school throwback guy, and he's gonna be a damn good special teamer. He plays like his hair's on fire. Somebody compared him to. Somebody said Lathan Ransom plays like Jeff Hardy if he was. And I was like, dude.
That's funny, dude. Yeah,
that's so good.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
I don't know who did that on X, but
WWE cops. Okay.
And I was like, damn, but he does play like that. I mean, he's a high flying son of a gun, man. Yeah, a little penalty-ish, you know what I mean? But he's going to play in the box for you, you know what I mean? And knock your head off. And now, I saw somebody compare. Okay. He hits like Rodney Harrison. Don't compare him to Rodney Harrison. Somebody on Twitter was like, Rodney Harrison vibes. I was like, he hits hard, bro, but chill.
He hits hard, but
I don't even think at his ceiling he's going to be Rodney Harrison because Rodney Harrison was a damn dog, like one of the best players ever. So he's good, and I know that he said Rodney Harrison was one of his favorite players too. He models his game. So.
Got to see Rodney Harrison play in person a little bit from the south suburbs.
Ransom's good though. Ransom's good. He's how I feel like you guys are talking about Cody Simon though, like situational, rotational, special teamer guy.
Right.
Plays in the right situation.
Yeah, I think there's just more of a vision with him. But either way, next pick, Jack Sawyer went the very next pick actually to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 4th round. I thought this was a great pick. I thought Jack Sawyer. I know he's got athletic limitations. Again, he's not super explosive, but he's a guy who knows what he is. He has a consistent. He has his moves that he uses. They always seem to work. There's no delay in this thought process. That was one of the issues with JTT is he would do one move and then it wouldn't work. And he'd be like, well, I guess the play's over for me. Jack doesn't do that. He can string moves together. So I really like Jack. Jack was another guy that kind of got screwed in his career because Jim Knowles kept trying to move him to that weird linebacker hybrid thing, and that just wasn't for him. So I think there's some untapped potential there too. I think this is a guy. I think that there's something there to be unlocked. Donovan, what are your thoughts on Jack Sawyer?
Man, I couldn't believe he fell that far. The Steelers and Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin got a guy that fits their culture and fit what they're trying to do to me. I know Bill's a Steelers fan over there, and I was gonna text you when that happened. Their picks were just going crazy at day 3, but yeah, I mean, I wasn't like super duper shocked he fell that far because I talked to people that said he might go in the 4th or 5th, but I had a 2nd round grade on Jack Sawyer.
Oh wow,
me too.
That was one of my best values. Yeah, I know you. So I mean, Josh finally going back around and agreeing. I know. Yeah, Jack Sawyer, man, like that's just. I don't get it. I mean, I know he's not a freaky athlete. I know he doesn't have a bunch of crazy fun moves, but that's going to be a guy that's going to have a really, really good career for a long time, especially on the Steelers when he doesn't have to be the man. They won't ask him to do too much. So I love it. I love the pick. I love the culture fit, and I love kind of what the Steelers did for the most part in the draft. They were one of my top 10 favorite drafts. I like what Omar Khan and those guys did. They get a bad rap, but I think they did a good job. But, yeah, I mean, Jack Sawyer going to the Steelers, great pick. I like it. Not a home run, but I mean, good pick.
Bill, what are your thoughts?
So I said, "Oh, of course he is." When he got drafted, does he not literally look like the most Steelers player you've seen in this entire draft class?
Yeah,
everything about him kind of leaks Steeler, and to the point that if you were shooting a movie about the life of Trent John Watt, he could stunt double him. So. It is a very Steeler-ish pick. And the Steelers are not super analytical right, in terms of their approach to drafting, which is sometimes good and sometimes not so good. Uh, that I'll have to do a whole show of my own about that. But the good news is that they literally just all those cliches about football, just playing football player, that kind of crap, which sometimes can bite you in the butt and often has with us, sometimes rewards you with a guy like him. And he's going to see the field, even if he's not a starter, he's going to see the field fairly early, fairly often. I was thinking like a smaller version of a guy like Paul Kruger, right? He's not quite as big as Kruger, but he's got some Kruger-ish qualities.
I like that. I think
not just because he's white.
Everyone says Sam Hubbard. I think Sam's a little bit better.
That's the easy one, right? Because
same
everything, right? Same everything, same limitations, same school. I get it.
Yeah.
Feeling Sam Hubbard.
I think he's better than Sam Hubbard, though. I do think he's a little better than Sam Hubbard. I think he'll end up. Let me rephrase that. I think his NFL career will be a little bit better than Sam Hubbard's.
Oh, that's
not wildly better. He's not going to be a star, but a little. Once again, I think the living room is Kruger. I think I think Sam Hubbard's like sort of around the floor. I think the ceiling is maybe a Vanden Bosch-ish ceiling, or the better Schobel brother. Was that Aaron? Was that the better Schobel brother? Yeah, Bo was the not so good one, right? Aaron was the better Schobel brother.
Yeah, then that's a good career then, because I think Sam Hubbard has had a really. I mean, I was just looking at his stats. He's got a really good, solid career. So I think I agree with you, Bill. I think he can be a little bit better.
All right, next pick, Ty Hamilton in the 5th round of the Rams. I love Ty Hamilton. I thought this was a great pick. I talked about this, Donovan. You lose all the hype when you're a guy who just can't move, but there's still value in a guy that can't move and won't get moved. Bill, what are your thoughts on Ty Hamilton?
Yeah, so he's that classic garbage can full of concrete, and the fact that he is essentially the Buddha comes in handy, depending upon how you want to use him. So things to like about him, as you just said, has a bit of his own gravitational pull. Things that you don't love about him, he's never going to be super like a guy that generates a lot of pocket push or disruption or that kind of stuff. But if what you care about is just a guy who's going to hold 2 gaps and just hold the hell out of those 2 gaps, that's your guy.
I compared him to Big Daddy Dan Wilkinson the last 7 years.
Oh, well, the difference is Big Daddy ran 4.73. Big Daddy ran.
Well, not during his. I said
the last 7 years of his career.
The last 7 years. Even the last 7 years of his career, he's probably more athletic than. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's probably true.
Ty Hamilton did test well though. His broad was really, really, really good.
He's not the worst athlete, but he's definitely.
No. He's not embarrassing. He's not Terrence Cody.
He ran a 4.97.
Right.
John, what are your thoughts on Ty Hamilton?
Yeah, this is about where I had him. I think this is a great pick for them, especially like I said, all about fit, right? On a team where that defensive line is one of the best in the league, especially inside. With Kobe Turner and Poona Ford and Tyler Davis, who I still think is going to be pretty good, and then now you got Ty Hamilton too. So, and I still like Bill Norton. I know people don't really like Bill Norton that much, but he's probably a rotational guy too. So I think that Ty Hamilton is better than Bill Norton, so he'll take his spot as like the solidified backup there at defensive tackle. But no, I like the pick. I think this is what the Rams needed, some depth, and they got a good player.
Yeah. My number 169 overall prospect.
I gave him a 3rd round grade, so I was a little high. I was pretty high on him.
I had a 155.
Yeah, so pretty close. You guys are pretty close. These next 2 guys we're going to lump together. Chris and I got a little bit of an argument about this yesterday, so I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Jordan Hancock went off the board to the Buffalo Bills before Denzel Burke to the Arizona Cardinals. In my opinion, I thought this was a great landing spot for Denzel Burke. I thought this was a steal for Denzel Burke. I gave Denzel Burke a 4th round grade. I know he had his issues. I didn't think his issues were that of the physical quality. I thought that he got lost just because he's still kind of new at the position. He's only been playing. He looks like a guy who still is. There's something left. But I don't think he's unathletic. I think he just got lost every now and again by double moves and all that. but I like Denzel Burke. I was surprised that Jordan Hancock got picked before him because Jordan Hancock was obviously the third. He was the nickelback. He was the nickelback for a reason. Denzel Burke started 4 years at Ohio State. You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, I would have picked. I know Jordan Hancock got a better pro day, but what does that mean, right? We saw both these guys at the same team. One guy started for 4 years and was the outside corner. The other guy was the nickelback. So I was a bit surprised by that. Chris said that he pretty much knew that Jordan Hancock would go first, which obviously he was right.
We said that last week, though. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys both.
I agree with him. Yeah.
I just, again, I just think that Denzel Burke, he was just they liked him more. Like it just, it felt like he did more for the defense, and he started for 4 years. But Bill, what's your thoughts here?
The old better athlete versus better football player conundrum, right?
A little bit, but do we know that Hancock is a better athlete for sure? Like, was that a fact, or was it just a good day? You know what I mean?
You think he had a particularly delicious breakfast?
It wasn't like he ran a 4.2. It wasn't.
No.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
well, that's the one thing I'll say about everybody on this defense. It's a really good defense, but there's not a single freak amongst them.
No, not really.
Not a single one.
That's it's not like you got to. It just there's not none of his testing.
Well, the freak is from next year's class, the Caleb Downs.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, right. I think Hancock is going to continue to be a part-time player at the next level. I don't think he's going to suddenly be. I mean, you quoted me, right? There's nothing that I've seen that makes me think, "Oh my God, this guy's suddenly going to blossom in the NFL into this absolute unstoppable killing machine."
This is when I quoted you, by the way, last week when we were talking about these two guys.
Oh yeah, and I got mad because I was like, "It's not always true." Yeah. No, I mean,
it's not always true, but it's usually true.
Yeah. Now the argument from Chris was like, well, Jordan Hancock played nickel, Denzel Burke didn't. So that argument means that Hancock's going to be better at that. And I thought, well, that's not. I don't know if that's fair because we know that Denzel Burke was the guy. Does that make sense? I get his argument. I just thought it was flawed.
I think Denzel Burke knows more about playing football, period. He may not know as much about playing nickel or slot corner or whatever you want to call it. He may not know that as intricately as Hancock, but he knows more about playing football, period. Yeah. Now, you need to protect Burke a little bit, right? I mean, but let's say you play a lot of cover two. He'll probably be just fine. I would urge you not to put him in situations where he has a lot of complicated. He's not that he's not smart. I'm trying to think of a way to put this. His eye discipline's not always the best, though.
100%. That's his biggest weakness. For sure.
That's my issue with him, right?
He bites on double fakes. He bites on
So if you give him a responsibility where he doesn't have to worry about that, right? Where once he gets past this point of the field, he's not your problem anymore.
And I also don't think he's incapable of playing in the slot. People are pointing to his lack of that. I don't think people are pointing to that Oregon game like, oh, he's too slow. He's not quick enough to play in the slot. I don't think that's what happened here. I think that, he got lost. Ohio State wasn't getting the pressure, so he was guarding the guy for 20 minutes. Dylan Gabriel scrambling around. I just think that's your argument for him not being able to play slot. I think it's a poor argument, if that makes sense.
Burke is right behind Dorian Strong in my corner rankings and was my 140 overall prospect. I still think there's something to be had, right? There's something there. I don't think he's cooked or whatever, the kids say. I do think he'll never be a star. But, at this point, I mean, it's cool if you still get a star at this point, but that's not what most of the players selected around this point in the draft are going to be.
Agreed. So, I mean, it sounds like. I mean, do you? So, are you surprised by the Jordan Hancock pick? Then, are you surprised Jordan?
I feel like Jordan Hancock was a guy. You talked about people who are beneficiaries, the whole rising tide lifting all the boats. If Jordan Hancock's at Ohio U, he might not get drafted, but he'd probably be drafted, well into day 3, like deep into day 3. So he's very much helped by the fact he plays at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Is he still a decent football player? Yes. But nothing about what I've seen him do makes me think this guy should have gone ahead of Denzel Burke. And more importantly, I don't think he'll ever be a full-time NFL starter.
Agreed. And we also had a conversation. Well, we'll get to that if we got time. Donovan, what are your thoughts? What you were kind of on Chris's side where you thought Hancock was going to go ahead of Burke the entire time, right, Donovan?
Yeah, I had two corners that I knew were going to go higher than most. And I mean, Hancock didn't really go that high. Like, I had a fourth-round grade on him. I mean, he went in the fourth round.
Yeah,
I
see, I
thought
had a 6th-round grade on him. That's why that was the
that's
argument last
wow.
week.
I don't know about that.
He's a nickel guy. Why would I draft a nickel guy over a guy? Even over. I guess that was my thought process. It's like
I get that. I mean, yeah, but I mean,
like
I had him
in the 3rd round back. It's like why would
I had him in the fourth. So he went where I thought. I thought he could go as early as late second. But as early as late second, as late as 6. He's kind of a lot of people are all over the place on him, talking to everybody. Like there's people that had him in the 6th, like you, that I trust. There's people that had him late second, early 3rd. I had him in the 4th. So I think it was a good pick. There was 2 corners, him and Jason Marshall. Jason Marshall went 150, so a little bit earlier for some people, a little bit later for some people. But those are like the 2 corners. Jason Marshall has the ability to be like a star. I think he has a lot of upside. Hancock can be a really good nickel. I don't know about star. And I know me and Bill talked about Jason Marshall a lot. We'll talk. He just has a lot of star
Jason
quality.
Marshall.
He just has a lot of games against other stars where he just shut them down. So
But
I know
that,
do that. But he has games where he looks like he's a backup in the UFL. So it's just that's what the Dolphins got. But Hancock, I feel like you're getting a little bit more consistency, even though I know he had up and down moments in games, but he was a little bit more consistent in that defense. And I like him. I like how he's 4-4-1.
The 3rd guy. He was always guarding the 3rd guy. Yeah, I guess that's my point. Like
Yeah, but I mean, when you're at Ohio State, I mean, you're loaded. I mean, none of these guys had to be the guy every week. There was a weekend Judkins could do it. There's a weekend Travion could do it. There's a weekend Jeremiah.
Denzel had
that's the whole team. The whole team was like that. I mean,
but
outside of Will Howard, I guess. But
the Oregon game where everybody's bitching about Denzel Burke, he's guarding Tez Johnson, while Igbinosun's guarding Evan Stewart. You know what I mean? It's like Hancock.
I get it. But there's games Hancock did his thing. I mean,
I just felt like Denzel Burke has been disrespected throughout this entire. And I don't think
Denzel Burke's a good player, though. I had Denzel Burke only 3 spots behind Jordan Hancock. I just think Jordan Hancock. You got to look at what we're talking about today's NFL. We keep talking. We've said that like 4 or 5 times. Like, well, Jordan Hancock is what you're looking for in today's NFL versus somebody. He just can play more on. I can put him on all 32 teams. Burke, I can't. I think that's a big difference. Like I think some teams probably wouldn't even draft Burke. Just doesn't fit on their team.
Well, that's
too much relying on zone. Hancock, I can do a lot of different things with, and he has a little bit more upside than Burke. Burke's a good player, though. Burke's a damn good player. They're not that far apart.
Let me ask the second part of our argument before we move on to Will Howard. The argument was, Hancock should have been playing over Igbinosun. I personally think Igbinosun is. If I was doing it, I think he's a top 5 cornerback.
You like that guy way too much, man.
You don't think Igbinosun is a top 5 cornerback if you had to rank the cornerbacks for next year, or where's he at in your rankings?
He's not.
He's not in your top 5.
No, I can off the rip. No, but I mean I can go look, but I don't have time for that. But yeah, I mean no.
No, what do you think?
He's like top 10, not top 5. No.
Am I crazy for thinking?
There's way too many penalties.
Okay, which player are we talking about?
Am I crazy for thinking Igbinosun has a chance to be a borderline 1st-round player next year? A top 5? I think he's a top 5 quarterback. If I had to rank him.
Okay, so obviously that's dependent upon like who else comes out and things like that. I wouldn't maybe have him quite as high as that, but physical testing, right, will be a big part of that. And
he'll test well, yeah.
I'm sure he'll test well. I don't know, not sure. I shouldn't say sure. I anticipate that he'll test well.
Yeah.
Is it out of the realm of possibility? No, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think it comes down to who else is in the class. And obviously nowadays in the age of so much player movement because of the portal, somebody that we didn't think that much of last year is going to be much better, right? Because they're in a situation where they're shown off better or they moved up a class so that even though they were utterly dominant in the Big Sky, but nobody really gave them that much credit. Now at Minnesota or wherever they landed, and they're still dominant. Now people awaken to how good a football. Right when I was watching Jared Verse terrorize people as a Great Dane at Albany and trying to get people to watch him. Hey, you got to watch this guy, right? Right. It's very. People are like, yeah, that he's doing that in the Northeast Conference. Let's see what he does. Okay, well, he went to the ACC and did the same thing.
Yeah, he did.
So that's some corner you're not even thinking about is going to be that guy again, right?
Well, I mean, but if you had to do your preseason rankings now, because I did my little loose rankings, and he's my number 4 cornerback heading into next season. I got Stamps from LSU, Jackson from Alabama, and Davis from Arizona. Well, I mean, obviously he transferred Washington over him, but he's my number. I mean, the guy's big, strong, fat. I don't know. I'm shocked by.
I see the vision, Josh. He's definitely in my top 10. I could see him being in my top 5 one day.
It could 1,000% happen. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there yet.
So I have McCoy.
Maybe I'm being biased. Maybe I'm just
McCoy. My number 1 corner is McCoy from Tennessee, and Avion Terrell, AJ Terrell's brother from Clemson.
And I believe
I have AJ Harris, Malik Muhammad, and then D'Angelo Pons, and then Chandler Rivers, and then DJ Harvey, Dalen Yeah, he's 9th. Davison's 9th.
Which is pretty close to where
Dalen Everett's weird though, man. Like, he might not start this year because Georgia's just so loaded at corner with like 4 or 5-star like younger recruits than him. He might be like the nickel. I don't know what they're gonna.
Well, whatever. I mean,
he might transfer, but anyway, yeah.
We're so
this corner class is good though. This corner class is really good, by the way.
Yeah, and we're so far ahead of that class. I feel like top 10 is basically the whole thing. And remember too, the kid is 6'2", and he's every inch is 6'2".
No, he's big. Yeah, I like his physicality. He's the most. You can make the argument he's the most physical corner. Like physically gifted corner.
I think so, but we're getting off topic. But that was just our side argument that Chris. But with last Ohio State picks, Will Howard in the 6th round of the Steelers. I think this is an absolute steal. I gave Will Howard a 3rd round grade. I think that. I mean, I gave him a 3rd round grade, knowing I think that he does a lot of things right. I think he's a good leader. I think he's got a good personality. I think that he can hold the clipboard for 10 years and do some I don't know, the CFL is a 2-quarterback system. I could see him doing that in the NFL with his athletic ability. I think there's a lot to like about him. It's a little odd that he plays the way he does and he looks like Gumby. I don't think he has the most impressive body for someone who does what he does. But if that's the biggest issue that I see, I think you're in pretty good hands, and you're getting him in the 6th round. Donovan, what are your thoughts on Will Howard?
Again, man, the Steelers, hell of a job for what they did. I like that pick a lot. Just another guy that fits the Steelers, what they want to do at quarterback. I had a late third round, early 4th on them. I think Josh, you might have been a tad bit higher than Will Howard, but we're pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah, we were in the same part.
And I mean, what's hard not to root for that guy? He's such a good guy. Out of all the players out of the combine, I kind of it was breathtaking, dude. No pause, I guess that's what the kids say. I know that sounds kind of crazy talking about another grown man, but you guys know what I mean. He was breathtaking, just his aura and he's just so professional but so cool at the same time. He's just man, if I was just rooting for guys, he's definitely my top 10, top 15. But we gotta be normal. We can't just be rooting for guys just to root for him. So no, but I like him. I think he fits well. Loved his reaction when he got picked, staying home in Pennsylvania from Downington, but he wanted to go to the Eagles. But better situation for him. He wouldn't be playing much on the Eagles, so I'm glad he went to the Steelers. I think he can compete. They for that job. Steelers quarterback room is not great. We'll know. They didn't make it much better. I think they should have picked the quarterback way higher than they did. But I mean, that was my only beef with their draft is waiting that long to pick a quarterback when they had one right there. But we'll talk about that later. But no, Will Howard's a good pick for him, a good fit. I liked Will Howard. Really, he was at K-State and he got so much better last year and just improved.
Yes.
And watching him on the Gruden quarterback thing was cool. He was probably my favorite quarterback on there.
He's a casual dude, fun dude.
I mean, I like some other guys better, but I like his vibe and what he can do on the whiteboard. Everybody said they were so impressed what he could do on the board, and physically gifted too, man. Gruden likes him a little. Gruden had him as his 3rd quarterback overall.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Gruden had a late 1st, early 2nd.
Oh my God.
And he's smarter than me, so maybe I'm wrong, but
Well, you are talking to the former advisor for the Milan Seaman. So
Milan C.
isn't that where he was coaching at in Italy for a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Barstool now though, but yeah. No, I like Will Howard. I like this guy. I think he should have went way higher. I can't believe he fell that far, but it is what it is. He'll make the most out of it. He's been
Bill,
doubted. He's
Bill,
been doubted.
you get final words because we got to shut this baby down before I get yelled at. What are your thoughts on Will Howard?
Well, here's what I'll say about Will Howard. He once again, as pointed out, the Steelers have a type. The Steelers clearly have a type, and he's my number 120 overall prospect. So things about him: tough, smart, gritty. All those classic Steeler things. He became a more effective passer, but some of that was, I think he decided to become more YOLO centric, right? He didn't have people he felt like he could just throw the ball up to when he was at Kansas State.
No.
He held the ball more. He took even more hits when he was at Kansas State, and he avoided certain throws, right? He stopped avoiding those throws. Obviously, when like Ben Sinnott is like your number one target, it's a little different when you get to Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith fills a man with courage because I saw him attempt throws he would never have attempted when he was.
He said that though, the combine. He did say that. He's like, dude, I got lucky just being able to throw it up to that guy.
Yeah.
He said he was in all that guy his first week of practice when he was still 17. Josh coming into Ohio State.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I mean that's speaking of freakish. But so that I wonder if that's the real Will Howard or if the Kansas State Will Howard is the real Will Howard. We'll find out. Yeah. We'll find out. But I agree, he has a chance to win the job, which would not have happened if he got to Philadelphia.
No,
that's all I was saying. Yeah, Will, you don't want to go to Philly, dog, because he said, I want to play right away. Well, that's not the spot for you to put you. I know he's a diehard Eagles fan. He's got to take that stuff down, Bill. What does he do at his childhood home? He has a room dedicated to the Eagles. What does he do? Take it down or what? What do you think? You're the Pennsylvania guy, so does he take it down?
Put it in storage.
Put it in storage.
Like it's traded.
Yeah, he can compete, man. I mean, they got their roster. I'm assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to the Steelers, but as of now, he's not on the team. Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, Will Howard. Why not? Like Mason Rudolph, you know what you're going to get from him. I mean, do you really want Skylar Thompson's I don't know how that dude's in the NFL.
Skylar Thompson is trash. He should be in the NFL.
So bad. And I don't say that about a lot of guys. He's not good. There's better quarterbacks.
There's better quarterbacks in the UFL. Bryce Perkins is a better quarterback. Whatever.
Yeah, Skylar Thompson is. I don't know about that, but Will Howard.
Skylar Thompson was the quarterback at Kansas State when they recruited Will Howard there, right?
Yeah,
he was. Yep. And obviously Adrian Martinez started over Will.
That was a bad coaching decision. Adrian Martinez. We should do a podcast on Adrian Martinez. And dude, I was watching 2020 Ohio State versus Nebraska. It's crazy that Scott Frost hitched his fucking wagon to that goddamn comment, dude.
I've never seen a quarterback get so many fucking chances. People were just like, he's gonna be good. He's gonna be. We're gonna make him good. They tried everything. At least he got chances, man. He got so many.
Oh my god, we'll talk about this because I that fell me down a rabbit hole where I was watching a lot of Nebraska football.
I watched a lot of
listening to the announcers. Oh, dude, I was listening to the announcers talk about whatever. We're getting off topic, but this was Ohio State of Mind podcast. I appreciate you guys coming on, Donovan. Where can the people find you?
First, before they can find me, man, I just want to shout out G. Scott because we didn't talk about him and he's on a Patriots. So I know y'all don't like G. Scott, but that's my guy.
I didn't say that. I didn't say he just wasn't good. He wasn't
G. Scott should have been drafted. He's going to be in the NFL for 4 years.
So Seth McLaughlin should have been drafted.
That's crazy. You had like a third-round grade on that guy.
Yeah. No, I had a first round. I think he's going to be special. You had
a first-round grade on him?
Dude, I'm telling you, he's going to be special. Just like Corey Linsley.
I had a third on him. That's
okay, I have forced to ask. Josh, how many first-round grades did you give this year?
Oh, a shit ton. Okay. I grade like I make love, generously.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Okay, I had a third on Seth. I liked him, but G. Scott is just my guy, so I'm rocking with G. Scott. He's on the Patriots. I feel like he can find a way to make the team. I'm just saying.
It didn't matter how generous I got. G. Scott was an undrafted guy in my rankings. It didn't matter how generous I got, dude.
G. Scott. Anyway, yeah, follow me on X if you want to find out about G. Scott and what he's going to do for the next 10 years in the NFL. I'm just kidding. No, just go to Don James Sports. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. The name remains the same. I'm just working on draft stuff, obviously, the recaps and everything. And, yeah, man, it was special. Thank you so much for letting me be on this show back-to-back weeks.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Shout out to Will, set the cloth with the Bengals now. Bill, where can they find you?
Oh, that's a good move.
I'm dropping an article series of the position groups in the draft, and then I'm going to do a one on the undrafted free agent signing gyms. That'll be popping up before the end of the week on Team MBS Media. You can find us also at Team MBS Media Live on X, formerly known as Twitter. And a lot of my video content is for Zinni62 Media. Did one on the wide receiver and the tight end group. That's popped up on Zinni62 Media. I'll also do all the position groups, and then I have articles that I've written after interviewing people like my friend Jay Robbins from Stampede Blue about the Colts free agency plus their drafts, their sort of whole off season, and then I'm going to write overwrite probably about the Chiefs off season. I'll probably need to break that up into like 3 different articles because I write too much.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and I want to have you back on too because I want to take an episode where we just walk down memory lane and we talk about some of these old Buckeye.
Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, that too. But this was the Ohio State of My podcast, and I got to get out of here before I get yelled at.